Great. So as people were trickling in, some of you will hear this again. I am a lover of escape rooms, both going to them just for fun. There are card deck versions you can buy for around $20 mark that are all puzzle based. Book versions where flipping back and forth through the book are great. So when I first heard about using them in an educational setting, I got really excited because I would have loved if more of my professors had done that in my undergraduate experience. There's a whole bunch of video games. There's a small discussion I can see in chat happening about those series and those versions you can do on your own. And to be honest, they're a great way to generate stories, which we will have a section that we're talking about that quite a bit today. I am joined by my colleague, Emily Armour, to help out if there are any questions, just because sometimes when you're teaching technical components, things get a little wonky, as tech sometimes does. But let's jump right in. Oh, before I do, because I have the memory of a goldfish, you will all need the link. Again, anyone who is at my creative classroom session knows that collaboration is often one of the best ways to learn. I see some of you populating again, good. So I love taking collaborative notes. As new as I am in the industry, I can learn just as much from your experiences learning from me as you can from listening to me speak at you. Clearly, it's something I like to do. As you go through this, we are going to go through it, sort of scroll down. So if you scroll with me as we go through PowerPoints and programs, it's perfect. We do have, before we get super started, just a note, there's a range of ways and programs that you can combine, skills and experience that you can use to make an escape room in whatever LMS you may be using. So just because I'm showing Moodle doesn't mean that's the only way to do this. So there's a little on page 2 poll. If you just want to put an X next to the answer, I don't need initials or names or anything, but also, if you have others, yeah, please drop what other LMS experiences you have in here. Whether or not you've done it before, have you used H5P previously? And no shame or judgment if you hadn't. I hadn't until just over a year ago. Time commitment, yep. Yeah, and down below, please type in any general fears or concerns you might have regarding any of it. You can also drop them in chat if you think you can't quite get in with the bullet points happening here, collaborative typing there. I'll always transfer chat messages over. So while you're filling all that out, let's see. LMSs, there's a lot of Moodle, not surprising. We have no Blackboard or Google Classroom. We have a couple of Canvas users. Only one person has built an escape room before. I know who you are. Love H5P for short videos with built-in quiz questions. You might get a specific call out, whoever you are, anonymous capybara on my screen. For anyone just popping in, there is a link to the Google Doc, which is where we're collaboratively working throughout the workshop here. So if you want to hop into that, on page 2, there's a quick little poll. Figured this was probably also quicker than me trying to make 4 or 5 quick Zoom polls. Let's see, what are our fears? Time commitment, ease of navigating the tools. Okay, different experiences for students on different browsers. Yep. Making sure the activity is equitable and accessible with an emphasis from somebody. Yep. Balancing fun and educational outcomes. This is a really tough one. And I will say right now, another emphasis there. Link in the chat again. Yep. Oh, sorry, Ashley. I didn't mean to miss you there. Let's that meet institutional. Ooh, only use H5P tools available in Moodle that meet institutional accessibility standards. If we do anything today that you believe outright won't meet those accessibility standards, I absolutely wholeheartedly, like, please raise your hand, give a question, drop a highlight in the Google Doc, drop a comment in the chat, because that's definitely something I'm trying to create more of, is more accessibility in terms of these tech tools. And it's certainly difficult to balance accessibility with the fun, and are they actually still learning and things like that. So we'll keep these in mind as we're going, which is a great jumping off point to what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about the why. You'll get a preview of one before we then talk about the what on earth are they doing with this, and then the how. So why use an escape room, and why do it within your LMS? And then if you scroll down to page 4 there, now it's shoved to, there's little pros and cons there. So if you have your own pros and cons, please add them. From my experience, it's just more fun. It is tough sometimes to balance learning outcomes with fun and engagement, but doing something slightly different, that breaking up the mundane, it really does help. But it also means that this can be an authentic learning experience. So if you build a storyline or a storyboard around something that's more real world applicable to what these students might come across in the field, or a lab experience they might be about to discuss but can't participate in, this is a great way to get them thinking about that in a real world way, but stuck in their LMS. We already have a fear about time commitment. It also takes a lot of creativity, and you do have to generate the content. So you do have to have some tech skills and content knowledge. A lot of times, as anybody who was in the creative classroom session knows, I like to talk about the two school for cool learners, which is a phrase I can't seem to say this week. So sometimes you do have to kind of sell it to your students, for the ones who are just like, that seems dumb. Why can't I just take a quiz and be done with it? Because even Missy, one of our professors here at the college, was talking about earlier, sometimes students just want to get their C, wash their hands, and get out, right? So sometimes you do have to sell it to them. You do have to balance your workload to the student benefit, right? So not only in terms of the time it takes, but is it graded? Is it optional? Is it a study aid? Is it just to get some interactions in week 1? And how much work are you putting in versus how much benefit you're receiving in the end? So why do it in Moodle or any LMS you may be using? We all know the more time your students spend in your LMS and in your course, the more active they are with the course content you are delivering to them. So if you can build it all in your LMS and keep them grounded there, they're going to be more likely to know how to navigate your course, because they had to find it to begin with. They had to be able to use those plugins and those features, but the more likely they are to stay there and continue to interact with the content. But depending on how you execute it, and you'll see some of that here, it can get a little clunky. If you're doing in-person rooms or card deck rooms for your class, it can be a lot more fluid. You can help guide them a little bit easier if they're really getting stuck. In this, it's all up to them. If they're beauty of it, they're asynchronous, they're off to the side, you don't have to worry about them. Downfall, it's asynchronous, they're off to the side, you might have to worry about them. So there are some benefits and some pitfalls to a lot of this, but hopefully we can come up with some really cool ideas for this. So I'm going to take you through my escape room that I built as an example, and I'm going to pull that up because it disappeared on me. This one is titled, all right, can everyone see my Moodle course?
Yeah.
Yep.
Small.
Perfect.
Might help if you increase the font.
We'll zoom in a bit. How's this look? A little better? Zoomed in?
Better for my eyes, yes.
Perfect.
Maybe close the left sidebar, Caitlin.
Thank you, Emily. Good call out. So obviously you're going to see this from an instructor's view. So the students are going to see something slightly different. But as you can see, I have given anybody who wants to utilize this as a, not quite a template, but as an idea generator. There are some notes there, but the storyline is I can't leave my office. I stayed late grading. I stayed late working on a project. I stayed late doing whatever it was. I just absentmindedly grabbed all my stuff when I realized. I went to walk out the door, and the instant I hit the threshold for my cubicle, I was plopped back into my office chair. I feel like this might be a little bit of horror themed one, because who would want that, right? You physically can't leave the office. Now I got to look for clues to escape. I also noted to any student who might be doing this, the escape room isn't graded. So I'm not calculating this for a grade. It's their first one. So I want them just to experience what it might be like. And I'll caveat right now, mine's a little broken. I want to say that was done intentionally, but it was a good discussion point for how things can go wrong in these. So I didn't fix it. So you're going to hit start the escape room. This is my view of my office. Isn't it lovely? So if I look out my door, this is what I see, but this is weird. There's a new keypad there. Anytime I try to leave through the door, I wind up back in my chair. This new keypad showed up on my cubicle wall. Do I have to input a code to be able to leave? Hint, when you're ready to input the code, click on input code button below. If I scroll a little bit further down, I have a keypad answer here. Notice my button did not say input code, right? So these are the types of things you do have to keep track of. But hopefully your students can recognize that input code and keypad answer are the same thing. As I move around my office, we can see my wonderful to-do list cupboard. You get a preview of my obsession with sticky notes. See a microphone. Click on that button. Okay, so that one didn't do anything for me. If I click here, on my to-do list was create that quiz. I should check on the progress. Okay, so I hit the microphone first. So let's go there. Microphone hint. Oh, so this is just a reminder that my upcoming podcast assignment is due on this date, and I should have completed my script and scheduled time in the digital studio by the time I'm entering this escape room. Come find me during office hours or anything. You can start linking these things out to other areas. If you're using Moodle, I always recommend please, please, please hit the open in new tab button so that you do not pull your student out of their escape room and they have to manage to find their way back in. It can be a little clunky to navigate back. All right, I'm done with this. Let's go back to the cupboard. Here you'll also be able to see where my first one is broken. So I'm going to hit quiz creation like it asked me to. Get this multiple choice quiz. So which of the following events is considered a major milestone in the global women's rights movement? You don't have to answer it, I promise. I do know the answer. In fact, in 1949. I hit submit. Great. What response was that? Does anyone remember which one I clicked? It's the first one. Again, this is the broken portion of it. Moodle randomized my response answers. I wanted it to be number 3. I did not click not to randomize my Moodle responses, but this keypad showed up and there's a thing there. I should probably make note of that. All right, took me back to the cupboard. Let's look somewhere else. Maybe I got to look at my computer. Wonderful view of my computer. Again, we see my sticky note obsession, my to-do list. Just a reminder, be sure to be checking the to-do list to see what to do, things like that. It can be a great way to give students those easy reminders without having to use email announcement, taking up time in class, things like that. Click on my thing. I was going to Google my way out of this, but I went to log into my computer. I found an equation. Do I need to solve it to get something? Again, we have another hint. Click on equation. See, again, we're broken. I don't have an equation button. Where'd it go? I'll show you why it's broken and such later. So I'm going to click through. You get the gist now. I clicked here. It took me to the wrong location, obviously. For anybody who knows photosynthesis might know the answer. It is this one. It's not that complicated, I promise. Correct. There seems to be strange 2 in the leaves of my orchid. These hints in the feedback can be as detailed or as puzzly as you want them to be. They can be, hey, your answer is 2. Would you as a student get, there seems to be a strange 2 in the leaves of my orchid. And once again, I have this. I'm an escape room person. I would start to go, okay, that probably means that 2 goes in the first spot on my keypad, right? Not every student's going to do that. Again, we're broken. I know the answers to these, so we're going to help you out here. Nope, H, R, this one is the gland, and the muscle. Submit. If I put these vocab words together, there'll be a secret clue hidden in it. Did anyone notice what I spelled with my vocab words? T-H-R-E-E. What does that spell? Is it a phrase? Again, make them as puzzly or not as you'd like. Start my bookcase view. I know the answer. We're going to keep shuffling along, I promise you. So we're going to go back to my door. You solve all the puzzles. Hit the keypad. Nope, got to hit the keypad answer down here. What do I input in my keypad? 2303. Scroll down a little more. As I hit the last digit on the code, the weird cloudiness begins to fade from my office surroundings. I can see. Time to get my things and get moving. Hopefully I can leave the rest of the office suite. Note, you can actually take this time to make a second room. So I could have taken photos just outside my office of long corridors, the next floor down. Then you can start to build room after room. But I wanted to give just a regular introduction to how this might work. We got out. Let your students know they got out. They did a great job. Awesome. Reminder, it's not being graded. So you would just want to reiterate that story, tell them they did a great job. If they don't get it, maybe you have a couple of hints pages built in. Maybe you have a couple of hints built into your sets there. For anybody at our campus who has access to this resources, I have a whole bunch of other information. That's information that's all in this Google chat or in the Google Doc there. So I lost my mouse. We did our preview. What do we think? Are we scared still? Are we confused more? Are we excited more? We have more concerns, less concerns. Puzzled. Appropriate. How long did that take to set up? All in all, that took maybe about I had to do some research on the types of interactive content I could make. So mine took a little bit longer. I'm going to say mine took about 4 hours to create, but I also created other pages. I was also looking at the lesson plugin. Sorry, my brain died halfway through that sentence. So it took me about 4 hours to create. Once I got the hang of it, making things, making the branches, making the navigation, which you can see isn't perfect. So I would say probably 3 to 4 hours for your first one. Once you get the hang of it, like any Moodle quiz or anything else that you might do, it'll start to get faster and faster. I could probably build a 4 view escape room in an hour or 2 at this point. What kind of Moodle activity is this? Preset activity, or did I modify one? It's a combination of 2. It's our H5P plugin and the lesson activity, and we're definitely going to get into that. Yes, I absolutely have recommendations for diagramming. You're all asking questions to segue me. It's so wonderful. Is this a tool within Moodle? Yes and no. I'm sorry, that's a terrible answer. The lesson plugin is specific to Moodle. I know Canvas doesn't have anything like that. But I also know that H5P files can be embedded into HTML code. And in Canvas, you can create separate pages for things. They might link off other ways. And then sneak preview, I'll let you know some ways you might be able to use the entirety of your course as the escape room rather than the lesson plugin if you wanted. All right, you guys gave me a great segue here to what's your story? What are they doing? What are they escaping? What's going on? Because your students are going to ask that. I ask that every time I go in. I don't choose an escape room without knowing the what. So what's my story? This is the digital version. I'll tell you right now, as you saw from the photos of my office, I am sticky note obsessed. So I have a bunch of I don't know, it was maybe $10 for a pack of 6 teacher whiteboards full of, focus on me, full of sticky notes. Here's my story, my title, each one of my rooms, each one of their puzzles. You can be as detailed as you want or not. Whiteboards are amazing. Wholeheartedly recommend. If you're a more digital person, I made this image in Canva. So you just have to start chunking out blocks, figuring out your own flow chart. Mind maps and flow charts that way are really great tools for that as well. So if you are a user of any program that will let you box with a link to another box and start moving that way, flow chart style, it'll be perfect for this. But here's how I thought about it. I lined up my rooms so I knew what to link to what. So the computer, pardon me, has to get linked to my 3D printer view as well as my cupboard view. This is the type of H5P content I intended to make for it. These were the different hotspots I wanted to make. So an office hours reminder, puzzle solution 1. I also put in what my escape condition was so that I remembered. And then I wanted to give myself a reminder of what we were talking about. So that brings me, nope, not yet. We're not howling just yet. So if you go to, excuse me, that link, it's a link directly to that same Google Doc. It's just a bookmark to step 1, which is storyboarding on page 5 if you're more of a scroll person. To the story. Things to consider. Why are your students trying to solve puzzles? Why do they care? What's going on? These students want you to be real with them. They want you to be authentic with them. So don't give them something that's just like you're doing it just to do it. As a student, I hated doing things just to do things. I wanted to know the why. What are they escaping? Are they escaping your office? Are they escaping the lab? Are they escaping the campus? Are they in a haunted house? Does it have any real world relevance? Maybe I can always go back to history and I don't know why, but maybe you're a history professor and they're trying to escape an important time event and they have to know things like that. Maybe they're taking on a persona of someone in a particular place at a particular time, going through from there. How are your students going to escape? Is it a keypad? Do they have to email you an answer? Do they have to submit a password to a quiz just to say, yes, I was here? To a section in Moodle? Do they have to say something in a discussion board? How are they escaping? How many rooms do they escape from? Will my questions be based in Moodle lessons, or my questions can be built in H5P? Am I having them bounce around the LMS? Who knows? The other question that I always want to hit on, because I am not that old, I do not consider myself that old, but if you were to bring to this set of 18-year-olds a Hunger Games reference, a Game of Thrones reference, clearly I'm a nerd, anything that's more than about 5 years ago, that's a dead pop culture reference, they're not going to be as into it as you are, I promise you. Or they're going to be as confused. Harry Potter still kind of hits the mark, but sometimes they're like, that's old. And it hurts a little inside. So just make sure that if you're using pop culture as a reference, it's a relevant reference or you're going to lose them. To a matacologist who was disappointed that people seemed to not care for the environment. If they didn't escape, he was going to destroy the world. Stuff like that. It can be fun and fantasy driven. It doesn't have to be you went out into the field and X happened. I mean, I was escaping my office with a green and purple cloud at my door, right? It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Captain Planet gets a gritty reboot. I love it. So as you're taking notes and generating some ideas, I do have that image in the Google Doc of the storyboarding that I did. So you can kind of see, I did not take a photo of my whiteboard because they are notoriously difficult to photograph, but it's a great, I'm a physical person. I love technology. I will never get rid of these. So here's what we're going to do now. If you scroll down to page 7 for me, if you need a bookmark link, I can absolutely do that. We're going to go into breakout rooms. How many people do we have? About 15. So we're probably only going to use about 5. So I want you only in groups of a couple. And we're going to generate a couple of ideas for the kind of escape room you might want to use in your classroom. So based on what you teach, what maybe a colleague is like, oh, I'd love to try this, but I'm not quite sure. A pop culture reference, anything like that. If you're an instructional designer, I'd love for you to try and talk about some of those resistant classes, things that might be a little bit more challenging, and try and generate just 2 or 3 story ideas. I'm just going to give us about 5 to 7 minutes. Let me get those going. Breakout rooms. Do I have both Krista and Lori back? Guys, for group 1, what did you talk about?
Well, we were with Ashley Turner, who should be showing up quite shortly. And magically, you put us in the perfect group because Ashley is also thinking about how to do something like this for new faculty in order to help them learn the LMS. And yes, so I don't know if we really generated a lot of ideas, although Lori had a lot of great examples, but definitely want to talk more.
Just going to drop that as a note because it's true. You can use it as sort of a community building exercise, right? I mean, if you're doing new faculty training, new student orientation type stuff, that can all happen in an escape type room as well, or more scavenger hunt feel across your LMS than an escape room. I see a lot more other groups going in. Group 2, you guys were very active throughout. So quick questions embedded is good. Could use their notes to answer the questions, and these questions might appear on the exam. Absolutely, just like any other quizzing. Chemistry to general health in a case study. Absolutely. Locations and museums, perhaps more vocabulary based. I love that. Feels very Indiana Jones to me. Victorian England, it's stinky and loud. Now you need to get home. Escape a planet. Picture book page with hotspots over a month. Yeah. Varying mineralogies. Wonder what a new faculty escape room looks like. Yeah, absolutely. I apologize, Krista, in a couple of weeks, you're stuck with me for 2 hours and I love this stuff. So I apologize.
I'm already excited about it.
So as you go through this, you can see there's a lot of opportunities here to get really creative. You can use things, like I said, when I see a crime lab scenario, CSI, and all of those types are really great pop culture references that sort of live on because there's always a new version of it, right? I mean, some of those shows are 15 seasons long at this point. Doing things like locations in museums. Just because your students had never heard of Indiana Jones doesn't mean you can't be inspired by Indiana Jones and move forward with that storyline. So start thinking of those types of really creative ways you can do that. I love there's a lot of like you get stuck in a location and have to come back home. And I love that because those are some of my favorite ones. Okay. So the question is, we've talked about stories, we've talked about how fun it is, but we've talked about it takes time and it takes investment and it takes some work. So we're going to have a few minutes here because if you all will scroll a little bit for me to page 9, we're going to get to step 2. Step 1 is storyboard, storyboard, storyboard. Whether it is physical storyboard and you're writing everything down, it is a digital storyboard and you're just inputting shapes everywhere. Now we have our story. We have exactly how we want to do this. How do we do it? How? So step 2 is creation of your H5P content, that base part. And this applies to any LMS you may be using. This isn't just Moodle. However, Moodle users, if you log into one of your Moodle courses and you see in the add an activity, if you see a black H5P plugin, so let me pull up, it's gonna look, go back to my course. So you can see I have an Alchemist one I've worked on previously. Go into edit. I'm gonna add an activity or resource. You need this one. It's confusing because Moodle automatically puts in this one. This one allows you to upload H5P content as a base feature in the LMS. That's not what we want to do. We want to create it. If you have this one, you can create it directly in Moodle. If you don't have that, don't panic. There are a couple more options. You can, if your institution has access to h5p.com licenses, you have an unlimited cloud storage bank for that. If you don't have license, don't worry. You can make an account and get 5 free base rooms or base contents, however you need. If you want a totally free version, you can use Lumi. Lumi is free, 100%, for both cloud storage and as an application on your computer. It's super easy to use. It's the exact same look, whether or not your Moodle instance has that plugin. So we're going to take a few minutes now, and we're going to get into one of these ways. So Moodle users, if you have that black plugin, I recommend the one, remember, we're gonna, looks like this guy. I want you to use that just to get some practice, stay in your LMS. If you want to download Lumi, it took me all of 10 seconds. If you want to just use the cloud version, it might take you 10 seconds to make the account, but it shouldn't take you very long. Or you can go directly to h5p.com. Give us a couple of minutes to go there. We are going to walk through how we build these. And then we're going to do another breakout room session. I know we have a couple of attendees who do not have the ability to participate in breakout rooms, and that's perfectly okay. We will work with you, and you can chat away in the chat box with your group or anything like that. 311 and above. Ooh. So I was unable to do it in my blue one, but I'm happy to be told that I am incorrect. And we're going to click. So I have an opportunity to, in my description there, use the content bank to manage your H5P files. H5P options? No. See, we're learning together. This is why this is so important to collaborate, places like this. Content bank, then choose add. Content bank, choose add. Ooh, this looks a little different. Does it have the one I want us to use right now? Find the, no, not find the hotspot, image hotspots. Moodle users, update. You can do this with the blue plugin. Thank you so much for the call out. Takes you a few more button clicks, but you can use that blue plugin. Thank you for that wonderful call out. That was amazing. makes this much easier next time I try to convince faculty to do this on our campus. All right. Do we feel comfortable? Can I get some head nods, some thumbs up in chat or on your reactions that we're in an editor of some sort, whether it's your blue plugin, we just followed the directions I was just given, or the black plugin, we're using Lumi. I see at least one thumbs up. See a couple of, okay, 2 thumbs up. How are we doing? 3. If I move on, are we all good? Everybody else? Okay, I see some gentle head nods there. Perfect. All right, so I use Lumi, so I apologize. You're going to see it through my Lumi editor. I'm going to go to the editor here. New file. It already brought one up for me because I tried to create one earlier, but you just new H5P file here. You're going to go down to image hotspots. You can also search here for image hotspots. Might say get there. Click on get. It'll take less than 2 seconds. Don't click on the details button. You have to click on the title of the H5P content. All right, you're making your first base. So, other important link that you will need. You can, if you would like, use whatever image that you have on your computer, whether it's for your own class or anything else. You are more than welcome to do that. Or everyone in meeting, thank you. You can use mine. You can escape my office if you'd like. Their background images there. There's even a video because I'll get to show you some interactive video versions. So you can escape my office, use whatever photo you have, go to Google image search, however you want to run that. I put in a title, escape room workshop. That title doesn't show anywhere, so it's just base however you want to keep things organized. I'm going to hit add on my background image, and I'm going to actually go to the location that I'd like to be in. Escape room files, background images. Let's just use this one of my computer. Always add alternative text. Whiteboard to the right, because we're only going to add hotspots on the computer and on the whiteboard. And there's a lot going on that photo. I don't want alt text that is a whole paragraph. So here are fun ways you can customize. You can use a predefined icon for them to click on, or you can upload your own image. I've never uploaded an image. I'll tell you that right now because I really do like just the base circle. So I'm going to stick with predefined. And I personally like it to be a question mark. Purple sounds like a pretty color. We're going to add a hotspot. Just drag this wherever you want. So you can click up here, click on my computer, you can go over here. I want this one to be my computer first. I never hit cover entire background image. As you can see, when we loaded up my escape room, those images blew out like crazy. If you blow that out, even your hint, they're going to have to scroll up and all over the place to exit those hints, things like that. So you want to do is leave that unchecked. You can add an optional header for you like. So this is a reminder of upcoming holidays. How about that? What do you want it to pop up with? It can just be text. That's most of what you saw. It can be an image entirely. So maybe it's an image that you have written a letter they found. So you look on the table, there's a letter to one of my colleagues that I wrote. It was a birthday card, and I want to bring up the text of that. Maybe it's an image of that. Maybe it's a video of walking through somewhere. Maybe it's an audio version, so they hear you saying something. I'm just going to leave it as text for right now. That's easiest. Text. Upcoming holidays to remember. June is Red Month. June, oops, 18th is, what is that? June 19th this year. So these are some important holidays. There are other holidays in there. I apologize if I missed yours, but these are the two that I look out for in June. So that's one hotspot. Easy peasy, right? I clicked, I typed, I was able to do it. But I want more than one hotspot. So we're going to hit add hotspot. They try to make this really intuitive, I promise you. Go here. What did I say? I wanted one on the computer and one on my little whiteboard. Header. Sticky note obsession. Maybe I want this to be an image. It's not going to make any sense to us right now. We're just showcasing buttons. So I'm going to add an image of my door. That same one you saw earlier, keypad and everything. Alternative text. Doorway of a cubicle, gray and purple, cloud outside door, keypad to left of door. You can offer hover text. If they put their mouse over the image, what shows up? Let's test it out. I can't get out. What do I do? Great. I can even add an item. Let's say I wanted an image and then I also wanted text to go with it. Text. Get out by inputting the correct code in the keypad. Great. How do we feel? We keeping up? We moving along? Do we have at least one hotspot on a background image? How accessible are these escape rooms for someone with a screen reader? I have not tested the screen reader version myself, but H5P content does have these features specifically for assistive technologies. This is something I still have to go in and really in-depth test myself. So I would challenge, if you are using a screen reader or have one right now and you use it, it's like, yeah, that's not going to work. I will say it does also make it difficult sometimes to describe what's going on here, because I have a busy office space. As you can see, there's a lot going on in that computer image. Scroll in a little bit. Oh, it doesn't want me to. So I could describe anything on my cubicle walls, right? But I wanted to make sure that it was based on where those hotspots might be in case that background image wasn't working. All right. Do we feel good? I see like, okay, yeah, all right. It's a lot of button clicking. So if you're lost, please let me know. View it. Now remember, for Lumi, there's an editor here and a viewer here. It should be the same for all H5P content creation. So you're going to click reminder of upcoming holidays. Now the fun one, click here. We got my image and the text showed up at the bottom. If I hover over, it says I can't get out. What can I do in my hover text? Keep in mind, hover text is not often as accessible. Yes, it's a lot less clicking than some other ways, but it's a lot more clicking in some ways. So just depends on what your cap there for this is a lot of button clicking might feel like. Do we feel confident in our ability to make our own? I saw some of you following along with me. If I were to toss you back into your breakout rooms, would you be able to do this with a small group? one of you leads with the program and you all interact. Not clear on how to get these graded. We will get to that. That is a separate portion. We're only on step one. You just got to make the view first. You got to give them a room before you have to talk to them about grading it. All right. So I'm going to give us 10 minutes. And I just want some page 10 there. Ooh. And I saw we did add somebody. So I'm going to link again to the Google Doc, and that bookmark will take you directly to page 10. And I think we had 5 groups last time. Perfect. So I just want one person in your group to lead. They're going to be the ones, they should be able to share screens. Is that correct, Joe?
Maybe. Good question.
Oh, we'll find out. So you should be able to share your screens. If not, you can work on it separately, doing your own image, talking about where you might place those, where you might place hotspots, etc. You're going to continue to use the image hotspots as your base. If you have used H5P before, you can lead your group through it, but I don't recommend, since I'm going to assume we're starting at base of 0 experience with this. Let's not get too crazy right off the bat. Do we feel confident that we can do this together as a group? I see some like smiles, some like, oh, maybes. Okay. In your group areas in the document, if you just want to input how your group's feeling about it. If you're like, we're so lost, it's not even funny. Please put it, someone will jump in. We will jump in and help you out. If you are really finding it fun, or you think this has good applications, drop any of that as well. The processes that you went through, anything like that. All right. So it should be send you all back out to your rooms.
During exam week, I was working with one of our faculty members who was trying to do a label the map question on a quiz, which Moodle supports, but it's substantially more finicky than that.
Yes, it is.
If I could say the right way to do this is H5P, that would make me happy.
And knowing I can do it now in that blue plugin makes it easy peasy. And for anybody who's concerned and was like, wait, I don't have the plugin she said, and I have to use this other application, I will put screenshots of how to get to that ad from the blue plugin into that Google Doc so that we can all have that information. And I really, again, appreciate the call out. This is what collaborative learning is all about, right? All right, do we have everybody by back? It looks like it. Perfect. How do we feel? See thumbs up. Were we successful? Do we have any more or less fears?
I think my questions are what's on the next slide.
Gotcha. All right. So there were a few questions as I popped. Oh, I see a like face. All right. So the next part of this is building the lesson. So, oh, perfect. Yay. Building the lesson. This is going to be exclusive to Moodle users. So I apologize to anyone else, but I'm going to pick my hidden content topic here. Always recommend having a hidden content topic. Add an activity or resource. Lesson. You want the squiggly lesson. You do not want simple lesson. You don't want the block. You want the squiggly lesson. Name it. Paper and workshop. I'm just going to put description here for right now because we are just building it. There are opportunities for you to grade built in right here. There are activity completion settings. But for now, we're just gonna save and display. It's gonna look like this. There's nothing to it. It's all blank. So I always say add a content page. That's gonna be your introduction. Intro. Remember, there's some information we always wanna know here. Graded. How long? Story. Here, this is where things get tricky. So I want you, where it says content 1, this first one's fairly simple. We're going to hit start the room. You're going to leave it as this page. We haven't created any other pages. It's asking where you want it to take the learner based on the buttons down below. I'm going to hit save. I have it in collapsed view. If I look at it in an expanded view, it'll show me the content that's on that page. I look at it in collapsed view usually because it will show the entirety of that big H5P image if it's expanded, and that can get really scrolly. You get into some infinite scroll situations. So we're going to add a new page. I want to add a content page. That first page after the introduction has to be a room, right? We don't want to jump them right into a quiz. So this is computer room. Page contents. Now, did I tell anybody how to save those H5P files? I sure did not. So we're going to back up a half a step. If you use Lumi, in the top right of the desktop app, when you are on the room you want to save, you hit File, Save As. Don't export it, hit Save As. It's going to save it as an H5P package. If you are using the cloud version, to the right, you are going to find the download option. If you are doing this all in Moodle, there should also be a way for you to download that. If you are, building these in Moodle, I recommend you download them and put them either in your Google Drive, your OneDrive, wherever your college's storage is. That way you never lose it. You can remove the base rooms from your Moodle course and not make your course so big when you go to export and import it. That sounds crazy. So when you make it in Moodle, what I want you to do is make it and save it. There should be a way. Let me make sure I go. So if I were to go to, let's just go back. H5P content. Opens. Window, add. Where to go? Image hotspots. When I do this, there's no way for me to download this in this view. So I'm going to put in some characters here. Just hold tight with me for a second. So you can see all of my Zumbini photos. That one. Open. Okay. Position there. I'm just popping in random content right now. Please don't be too concerned about what I'm doing. We're going to hit save. When I get to here, download. It's going to download as an H5P package. The reason we want to do this is so that when you are in your lesson, so again, I'm going to do escape room workshop, close my navigation bar. Gonna hit this H5P button. And I should be able to just upload that download file. Mine keeps telling you it's a Lumi file, but it is an H5P file. Is anyone lost at this point?
All right, so I'm wondering if our Mount Holyoke friends would say we should use the content bank. I don't know if they're willing to comment. But in the new H5P, that content bank is now a file picker on the left-hand side if they think it's going to become too large of a course file or not.
That is some of my concern with that. But if they haven't found any issues with it, I'm more than happy to edit my conversation in this. So I hit upload, insert. Looks like nothing. Don't panic, because I did. The very first time I did this, I uploaded and I went, oh no, I have a gray screen and there's nothing here. It's okay. Because remember this, where do we want it to go next? Well, I'm gonna hit quiz 1 because we can always edit that. You're gonna let it stay at this page. I'm gonna hit save. Oh, I didn't title it. See? Escape room base. Hit save. Okay. You've done it. You've made the first third of an escape room. How are we feeling? Do we have some thumbs up? See 1. I see 2. I see some like, Okay, there's another one. Okay. I don't hear anybody unmuting and go, no, wait, stop. Or seeing anybody in the chat going, slow down. So once we're here, what I want to do is add the rest of my content. So whether or not you are adding more content pages, as in more H5P content, whether you're adding more quizzes, which is what we're going to go through right now, because there are pros and cons to the lesson quizzing features, you're going to work from this homepage. So I want to add a new page down here. I want to add a question page. Let's see, we want to do, let's just do matching, because I feel like that might be a fun change. Add our question page. Page title. Match the, if I could spell, this would help. Match the letters. Page contents. Matching the letters is easy, right? Correct response. Positive feedback with code. Maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe it's a piece of a puzzle they have to figure out that's larger. When they get the correct answer, this starts to where it gets really bogged down and really important to slow down and pay attention. You want it to go back to the escape room base, because what we want them to do is go back to that original screen page. If you want them to go to another quiz question, you'll do that. But right now, all we have is an introduction, a base room, and this question. That's all we're going to build in this room. So I want them to go back to escape room base. Score of 1. I don't want to grade it this time. So score of 0. Wrong response. Did you match them correctly? Probably not. So A goes with A, B goes with B, C goes with C. So those of you who've made Moodle quizzes before, this was not immediately obvious to me. Maybe it is to you, but I only have 5 matching pairs available. I cannot expand this. It is limited to what this allows me right here. This is where that gets important. If you were to make a regular Moodle quiz question with matching options, you can have almost an unlimited number of matches. If you were to have of my question page options, what else do I have here? See, matching. So that is click on this, let's preview it. Nope, save page. Even I don't always click the right buttons. This is what matching looks like. It's not the same draw to match or drag and drop or anything like that. It is choose an option. And I'm limited to 5. Remember when I had a vocabulary list and the vocab word spelled THREE for the number 3? That means that I can only pick numbers, if that's what I'm going with, that have 5 letters. I am limited to what that question allows me, where I am not limited in my other quiz questions. This also means your lesson doesn't like it if you try to import already created quiz questions. If you have this really wonderful bank of quiz questions that are properly categorized and you want it to pull from them, it doesn't like it. You will have to recreate those questions from scratch. And it's a very limited way. As you could see, yep. When I go to add a question page, I only have so many options. There aren't that many options here to begin with. So to build some of these, you either have to get them to link one question to the next question to the next question and do a multi-page thing. Or, not a problem. Thank you, Eric. You have to get them to, broke my train of thought. He told me not to pause and I did. This is what happens when you have a goldfish for a brain. So in a normal quiz question, you would have a lot of options. So even in multi-choice, you could make a ton of listed responses in multi-choice. Here, I'm only allowed 5. So this is where things start to get a little trickier. Okay. So we built the lesson. We made an intro page. We made a content page. And I made one question. Are we done? Am I good to go? What if I just escape room workshop? I want to start the room. This looks good. Starting off. Oh, it's a little broken, isn't it? All right. So that branching. And this is where I probably spend, I'm not going to say the most time, but a large part of my tedious time is in this, because this tells you where these jump. I want the intro page. I have to edit it. When it says start the room, I want that button at the bottom to go to the escape room base. And when it goes to the escape room base, I need it to be able to go to the match the letters question. Save. Now match letters when it is correct. So the match the letters, when you told it with a correct answer, go here, with an incorrect answer, go here, it automatically ports those options into where it jumps to. So if you were to get it wrong, it would go back to that question page. If you were to get it correct, it will go to your escape room base. This is the most tedious part of this process. What I recommend doing is creating all of your content and then start going back through and making sure each one of those jumps is accurate. What you can do to help with this, add clusters. Clusters will mean that it jumps from one to the next to the next. So it will cluster pages together. branches will be ends of branches, and they won't really be able to go to that other branch. These are ones I haven't played with as much. I haven't made a big enough escape room to do some of those things. But my recommendation, make all of your content and then go back through and say, okay, here are my content pages. Here are my question pages. This one needs to link here and here and here. Now we understand why my goldfish brain needs a flow chart, because I need to know when I make all of my content, I need it to link to here. And then this one needs to link to these two and also to a question page. So that's where things start to get a little tricky. Moodle users, how are we feeling? I don't hear screaming. That's always a positive. I even see a thumbs up. Okay. I don't hear like wailing from cities away. So do we still feel okay?
I can't reiterate enough how important it is to make whatever that document, that, you know, storyboard, whiteboard, sticky notes, you can, you know, look like the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with all the, you know, pictures and red string on the wall.
Yes.
But something, I have tried multiple times to do this in my head, and I increasingly, my head is limited, but I'm not sure it can be done.
Yes. So I don't mind being like the conspiracy theorist with the giant cork board and all the pins and red string going everywhere. If you're a little less like that, again, I recommend these are like the super cheap little whiteboards I can draw all over it. Post-it notes, they're wonderful. Doing it digitally, also amazing. Flowchart it. Mind mapping tools, if you like it electronic, yes. I tend to like handwriting. That's just my own personal preference. As you saw throughout my cubicle, there's a lot of post-it notes everywhere. So yes, if digital mind mapping works for you, please set your storyboard, set how you want it to function and branch and flow, and then make everything you need and then start linking. It's the most tedious and annoying process at that point. Okay, you've made it all the way to what I'm calling step 5 and or 4B-ish in the document. We are all the way on page 15 of this Google Doc. It's a lot. I see some like animals changing. They're like, wait, quick, where are we? It's okay. There's a lot going on. So if you don't like this, all contained in this, because maybe the quizzing feature in lesson, not super great, you can use H5P to create your questions. Here's the problem. Moodle will not automatically grade those. So if you are wanting this to be graded and Moodle to give them the answers for these things, then Moodle can't grade the H5P content. However, H5P will give you a lot more opportunity to, excuse me, mouse. I've lost the ability to use my other monitor. There we go. There we go. If I make a new file. So you can see there are a ton of options here. I can make multiple choice questions, even a quiz question set right here in H5P. I can go back through and ask for screenshots or anything, but there's no way to even manually grade it at that point. At that point, what you're making is just a class content delivery activity, a study aid, a community building exercise, etc. You can do it just using flashcards. You can just get them to make those types of study aids. There are several other options. Some of them are browser only. There are more content options for page delivery on, I to scroll up. I apologize. Page 11. There are other options with pros and cons. You can do hidden hotspots. You can do an interactive video. Got some time, actually. Let's showcase that. I'll take you back to my original room. I'm going to escape the office. No, let me move through this on my own. Actually, no. Because as we all know, my room is broken. So I have some of my things. As you can see, starts to look a little clunkier as my answers are correct and incorrect. So this is where things get kind of tedious, right? But find the hotspot. You can make invisible hotspots. This means your student's gonna have to think about where they might actually look for a clue. Would you look for it on my bookcase? Maybe this gamification book. Oh, that was one. Nope, just kidding. There's no information there. Okay. And again, I don't know if you can see me. I'm trying to click out of it. It's not easy to click out of. All right. Well, she's stuck in our office. Let's just click on your keys. It wants certain hotspots to be correct. If you label any hotspot as correct, it doesn't want you to restart this area. It will mean even if multiple hotspots are correct, it will say, yep, you found a correct one, done, move on to your next content. I don't want that. So you have to leave them all incorrect. And then that means this little bar is very confusing and they have to hit refresh. There are benefits, like I said. I think it's the other skull. Yep. The buttons are hidden. So a more immersive experience is to have to go through and find what you might actually pick up if you were escaped in the office and needed to find clues. Interactive video. An Adobe stock video where do you see that there are two hotspots? So obviously we have this one. If I click on this one, it lets me jump in time. Those are the two default options. I can time hop in the video, or I can set an external link because I don't know if anyone's noticed. I know it's hard when we're screen sharing. There's a blinking hotspot right here. It takes me to technology, the technology webpage for College of Wooster. I can get it to automatically link out. The default option is for it to, where am I? It to open in a new tab. So all I have to do is click back over and I'm back in my escape room. I'm not taken out of anywhere to do this and have to find my way back through. You can get it to add text. It's a little clunky. The other option I don't like in this is a nitpicky thing. This is a very detail-oriented thing. This is static. It's not moving with anything in the video. So as I go through, it's going to pop up. Boom. The video moves without it moving, which means, is it really locating a piece of content or is it just a bubble popping up? What's nice about interactive videos, the quiz questions are built into the interactive videos. So I could make this and do my entire quiz based on the video. When they were done, if they got a certain amount correct, let's say 80% of it correct, they get the feedback they need to get the puzzle hint. Again, you can't grade that in Moodle, but it does mean they do have to know certain content to get feedback. They have to be able to play with those puzzles to get feedback. This is the only one I found where it's truly built in this way. Going back down. A lot of these pros and cons are built into, like I said, I believe it's page 11 of that document, which you're all more than welcome to download or keep taking notes in as you think throughout the day. That's not a problem to me at all. So they're all pros and cons, but as you can see, navigating once I have it set correctly, it's pretty easy. And when I'm done, End. Cool. As an instructor, if I have to go in and I have essays to grade, say I gave them an essay or a short answer, I just have to go in. It's a great way to, instead of inputting the code into a quiz question, they have to give you some type of text. They have to tell you some type of synopsis, something along those lines. So the other, so we're still on how, right? How takes a lot. The how is a lot of this process. And it's the tedious part. But you don't want it to live in the bubble of that lesson. Okay. You can start in the bubble of that lesson, and maybe for your first week, it's syllabus week. You want to get to know everybody, build a sense of community. You want them to give you some information about themselves, who they are, what their major is, their hobbies, if they have a pet, who they're, where they're from, things like that, in a short answer response. And they have to send you what your course policy is on AI use. Well, guess what? Now they have to go to the syllabus. They have to read your syllabus, copy your course policy on AI use, and drop it into that short answer. And you're like, okay, in what week is the midterm? Well, now they have to go into your LMS and they have to look at this stuff and they have to start navigating around. Your escape room in Moodle can be hidden content only accessible if they complete a certain activity. And so it can be a week-long scavenger hunt so that they get familiar with the content on your page. It can be a semester-long scavenger hunt where certain parts of the escape room only open up to certain people who, either did a certain type of assignment. In creative classrooms, we talk about whether or not doing bite-sized learning TikTok type feel videos could be a replacement for a student instead of an in-class presentation, instead of a, other type of talking head presentation style. So maybe students who all did the TikTok versions then get branched into different type of escape room. They have to have different content, and they're just searching your LMS for different pieces of information. They're just asking the same questions in a different way for them. So you can make it more scavenger hunt feel, where the course is more your escape room, or you can contain it in a lesson of that bubble. If you're wanting that sort of very immersive experience of a one-time activity, I recommend that bubble. But that doesn't mean you can't expand it with a little creativity. It just takes a little alternative thinking. So we have about 15 minutes left. Pages 15 and 16 in that document. I know it's a lot of scrolling. There are so many pages there. I apologize. Add in there in the chat, unmute. I'm not showing you anything anymore. As you can see, I want to slide. Let's just chat. How are we feeling about escape rooms? Do we see an application for them? Do we see alternative LMS users? So those of you who are using Canvas and things like that, do we see opportunities either for H5P or for escape rooms in general? Do we have any more storyboard ideas based on what we know we can and can't do? Does that change the way we want to think about the stories we generated earlier? Do we have any questions, comments, concerns?
I'm just going to add that I'm old school on my storyboard with paper.
Glad to hear, fellow EdTech friends. Again, very much all the time. Call me out if I'm not quite up to speed. Yes. Oh my gosh, Ashley, you are my favorite person right now. I love co-creating assignments and course policies. Talk to your students, work with your students. And even if it's these students impact what happens next semester, and then those students get last semester's ideas. But, so fall makes spring's escape room and spring makes next fall's escape room. Do I want you to have to build a new escape room every single time? Absolutely, I do not. That sounds like a lot of work. I don't want that for you. But maybe co-creating some of those rooms, maybe they'll think of a story you've never thought of. Yes, I'm all about, look, I used to come from a retail management perspective where you delegate and offload your tasks and duties. Please, as faculty, delegate and offload some of your creative requirements to your students, because chances are they're incredibly innovative too. And then they feel empowered in your course. They're going to want to work with you. Some of them are still going to be too school for cool. Okay. You're never going to get around that. But empower them to know that they're making a difference in their course and you're listening. All right. I scrolled all the way back up toward general fears and concerns. Time commitment. How do we feel about our time commitment? Is it a lot of time? Is it a little time? Is it an iffy amount of time? Learn as you go kind of time? Helen, I love your visual reactions. I'm just going to call you out there. I very much appreciate them.
Caitlyn, do you have any, can you tell us about any people who, examples of people who've used escape rooms to complete a specific academic task that you thought were really wonderful?
Ooh, okay. Yes and no. So I'm going to say yes, because I know of at least 2 people who say they've built an escape room before. I know one of them was for academic purposes. However, I know that the one does not use Moodle and so did not have access to these things. So in terms of using them for a distinct assessment, it gets a little trickier, right? Mm-hmm. Because now you're having to have them take additional quizzes or space the quiz out in a very strange way. So I always recommend testing it at the very beginning of your semester with an ungraded version. And if that goes swimmingly, you've got the green light. But if your students are like, no, please never again, get some feedback on why that didn't work out or how that was a pain process for them, where their pain points were, and that'll help you get better and more efficient at making them. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, if I could push on it a little more though.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So thinking about, I'm more clear on how this could be used effectively in classes where you're looking for an objective correct answer. Mm-hmm. What about classes where the learning is much more interpretive or constructing, or it has to do with constructing knowledge or interpretation, and there's not necessarily a multiple choice kind of answer or a...
So you're trying to think, do you have an example of a class, like even a class title? Because I feel like that would help me more.
So I'm thinking, 19th century British novel. Okay.
So it's particularly those humanities literature style classes, right? Where you're more synopsis. In terms of an assessment, making sure that they have not particular analysis, but they are analyzing that content. Your escape can be a short answer synopsis while you're asking them detailed questions about how their analysis went in the guise of being a character from a time period, a time place, a piece of literature, something along those lines. So might take a little bit more thought creativity in terms of creation at that point. But instead of like, do you understand this content? Yes. But yes, the choose your own adventure is a style of escape room, right? So I love that, Lori. Yes. That sort of like pick your own, I'm going on this path. And if I were to have chosen this other path, this is where it would have led this character. And if they'd made these choices, it would have led them here. And instead of asking them to escape, maybe it's more an explanation of an alternative path for them and the analysis of why they would have chosen that versus why the character chose what they did.
The other thing that occurred to me with that was instead of thinking closer to a singular text, that you could use an archive or a library.
Yes.
It could actually be, I mean, we used very short pieces of text as the examples, but it looks like those could really be quite lengthy. And if the idea was that I want the students to explore the archive and look at passages from 6 different novels, or, you know, pick which novels it makes sense to try to make a pattern with, I can start seeing things like that. That might
And
be,
again, something, not to cut you off, Joe, I apologize. But to expand on, maybe your escape room then isn't a singular assessment bubble. It is a culmination of your entire semester. So it is the, how far did you get? And at the end, did you escape the archive? And the archive is going through the content of your course. So it's that gameful design for the course rather than the gamification of one activity.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, of course. All right, different experiences for student with different browsers and OSs. I can only really speak to this for Moodle specifically. As you can see, there are a lot of tech components. And even on my big screen, the content pages get shrunk to here. The H5P content blows all the way out, and I have to start scrolling up and down. And I have no way to control zoom in and out when those H5P content areas are up. So not super mobile friendly. Tablet, laptop, computer, particularly a computer with a monitor, yes, not so much your phone. So if you have a student base that really loves going through their quizzes on their phone, I used to be one of those students because I was busy. So I took a lot of quizzes on my phone. It's not going to work out for them. So in terms of true accessibility, maybe not so much depending upon their devices. So please keep that in mind. Most, I'm not going to say all, most students seem to have some kind of external device aside from their smartphone, or have access to a computer lab, a library, things like that. But as you can see, it's not 100% foolproof all over their place. Ease of navigating the tools. How easy were these tools to use? Moodle users, you had 2 you have to analyze here. But H5P, easy, difficult? H5P, very easy, yep. That's what I love about it. And it tries to walk you through it. And if you don't input something where it's like, you need information here, it won't let you save it. It will make you put that information in. So it's really good about sort of walking you through. H5P also, when you hit the details button on any of their, rather easy, maybe not very, yeah. If you hit details there, it also will give you tutorial walkthroughs on how to use those particular, not plugins, the variety in the content. Balancing fun and educational outcomes. Do we feel like we could probably do that depending upon how we're using our escape rooms? I see a lot more like straight-mouthed faces. Again, I think as along the lines of Helen, you were talking about, sometimes you have to think a little bit more creatively if your class is more of a critical thinking, skill-based class, right? And that skill building course while delivering content, but it's not quite content memorization. You have to think a little bit more out of the box, and maybe it's a more gameful approach to that design. Whereas something that's very memorization and very heavy hitting on content understanding and content mastery, this might work a little bit easier. Not every assessment style, not every activity, not every resource works for every classroom. And even if it works in theory for every bio classroom, doesn't mean it works for every bio instructor. So always take what you learn with a grain of salt and implement what works for you in your class with your students. Don't feel confident in guessing. Don't want to overuse them. Yes, certainly variety is the spice of life. Want to make sure there's a variety of activities, but we don't want to just hammer home on one. Students don't guess, confident in guessing. I think that's where you can tailor. Maybe one semester you used really thought-provoking puzzles, like, oh, there's a 2 in the shape of these orchids I clicked on, and I'm supposed to know based on this image that it's the second number in this keypad puzzle. That's very escape room thinking. So as you get more comfortable with it, you'll know how to balance. This is a true thought-provoking, hard puzzle, and just giving them the code as they complete content quizzes. So it's a balancing game in that way, where you're not trying to guess, but also get them to think without having to overextend themselves, and then also not babying them at the same time. Incorporating this for next academic year. I wish you luck in incorporating it in the next year. I know that it is June 2nd and next academic year feels very far away, but I also know learning new technologies is often very time consuming. So as always, at the top of the Google Doc, you can find my contact information and connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like. Yes, I love them for optional assignments and for study aids, but then you're balancing the benefit to the student for the workload you're putting in. But making them optional is really easy for it to work as an optional activity that earns them a perk in a classroom with a gameful design. Yeah, you see, they all come together. I really love gameful design. So there are also a multitude of programs that do this. So I know, I'll call her out here. Laura has used PowerPoint entirely to do this. But these PowerPoints start to get huge file-wise. So uploading them into an LMS and or allowing your students to download or view them, or however you need to go through that, is sometimes pretty clunky. If you are an LMS that is based in, Google Forms with Google Slides, that's a really common one. If you've ever heard of ditchthattextbook.com, they promote the use of Google Slides with a Google site and a Google form all the time. Especially given that they're K-12 focused, and most K-12 classrooms now use Google Classroom. If you are an LMS that does a lot of HTML coding and embedding, you can make hidden buttons in your LMS. So your entire course, they have to scan over pages of your course to find where the mouse will let them click to get answers and feedback. Maybe it's a bonus question. Maybe it's a perk if your course is gamefully designed. Yes, absolutely. If you're looking at other programs to use, Twine is going to be a great one. Visuals a little more challenging to integrate. So as we're wrapping up here, we have just one more minute. I just want to open up one last time to comments, questions, suggestions, addendums, referendums, and amendments. Any fears and concerns that are still popping up? I got the head nod from Helen. I think I'm good to go. All right. So again, my name is Caitlyn. I work over here at the College of Wooster, and I really appreciate you guys sticking around to the very end of the very last session of this conference to do some very technical work. So I really appreciate you, and I'll turn it away to Joe.